Alright, what's going on YouTube? The Bearded Baron, and in today's video, I'm going to break down for you the best items and the items that you should be focusing on getting to tier 3 above everything else. Some of these items are nice to have, while others are absolutely necessary to do these ghost adventures. But if you like this video, please give it a like, share it with a friend, and if you're new here, please consider subscribing. Without further ado, let's get into the video. Alright, so I'm going to say first things first, right? The dots, right? To upgrade from the tier 1 dots to the tier 2, do that as soon as it possibly comes out. 100%. Go from tier 1 to tier 2. The dots tier 1 sucks. I hate it. I hate it. I think everybody hates it. Right? Tier 3 is even better. You can cover over huge areas with the tier 3 dots. It really does encompass a lot of stuff. It definitely makes your life a whole lot easier. Right? EMF, right? EMF here for tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. I'm going to be honest. While the tier 3 is nice to have, you could get away with tier 1. If you know the game, if you understand, like, hey, I heard it or I saw it throw something, you could easily still just pick up stuff with the tier 1. Tier 3 is nice because it does give you the direction to head into, so like it kind of, it allows you to steer that way. But apart from that, the jump from tier 1 to tier 2 and from tier 2 to tier 3, not that much, right? The only thing that I like about the tier 3 one is that it does give you that directional, so that way you know exactly where to go. It eliminates a lot out of the guesswork. But if you know what you're doing, you can easily get away with tier 1, tier 2 stuff. No problem. Ghostwriting book, same thing, right? It's a nice to have. Do you get, like the ranges here and the interaction rate is high, right? So that means that it's, the ghost is going to interact with this much faster at tier 3 than it is tier 1. Absolutely. If I take everything that the ghost can interact with out of the room and force it to interact with the tier 1 ghost book, it's going to interact with that one. Right? So that one, the ghostwriting book is a nice to have for sure. Spirit box, same thing. Right? Response rate is high, that kind of stuff. I haven't really seen too much of an issue with the spirit box. You definitely do get a lot more range with it. I don't care about the audio quality. We're just waiting to see whether or not that it responds back or not. Plus, you do get a little bit wider range. But then again, if you're walking around in the ghost room, you should be able to pick it up. Freezing temps. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't like tier 2. I don't like the tier 2 or tier 3 ones. And here's why. I need to do more tests with this one. But the tier 1 thermostat is, I believe it's one of those ones where you can bring it in and you can throw it down and you can kind of forget about it for a while. And as the room temperature lowers, it's going to lower as well. Whereas these other two, I actually have to go back and get the reading or try to get the reading several times before it actually gives me the reading. Right? It's a personal preference of mine. I like to set it down and forget about it kind of thing. And then I can just pick it up and I can immediately read it. I don't need to wait with the other two. Now, if I didn't bring these in and I brought this in like last, then yeah, these would be, these are helpful. There's no real difference between the tier 1 or the tier 2 and tier 3. It's a nice to have. That's about it. Fingerprints, same thing. It's a nice to have. It's definitely easier on tier 3 to get the fingerprints to show up and to get them to stay shown, which is great. But the tier 2 and tier 3 are directional, whereas the tier 1 actually is like it's in a 360. So if you were going for like footprints or something like that, I would definitely say like tier 1 would be the way to go. But tier 2 and tier 3, are both solid as well. Video camera, I'm definitely going to say tier 3. That one is a 100% a must-have. The tier 1 sucks. The video camera, the thing that you're looking through is about this big, and it's awful. Right? And it's gross, right? I would push this one to tier 3 as quickly as possible just because you get a much larger screen. You can, everything just looks a whole lot better with it. And the knockdown chance is the same on all of them. Paranormal interference is low, right? So I guess you get a clearer picture when the ghost does something, right? And the image quality is a lot better. But yeah, I don't know why. I mean, like, I guess nice to have, because you can still get all the evidence you need to with the other ones. I just really like having the tier 3 for me. Crucifix. That one's kind of a no-brainer, right? The better the crucifix, the more hunts that you can prevent. Tier 3 hunts prevents one cursed hunt as well. So that means that I could come in here and I could throw down these tier 3 crucifixes inside of a room, pull the, like rip the, the music box right inside the ghost room, and it'll eat one of the crucifixes, but it'll stop the hunt. That's pretty much invaluable, especially if you're playing on multiplayer, if you're playing with Grandma. Granny Baron for sure. But yeah, so I would say that one for sure is definitely a good one to have. The candles or the torches here, tier 3, definitely way nicer to deal with. I don't really deal with the candles a whole lot, unless we're talking about the ghost blows out the torch or the whatever the fire torch or whatever they're called, the candles. Right? But the tier 3, if you're running in with something like it's dark and you're not using flashlights for whatever reason, tier 3 definitely helps out. It definitely lights up the room a whole lot easier and a whole lot longer than the tier 1 and tier 2. But these are a nice to have. I could run with the tier 1 ones and be fine. Flashlights, that one's it's a very nice to have. But kind of moot once you get down to the next one that I'm going to talk about here. So, like, definitely nice to have, but you can get away with doing you could stay at tier 2 and you'd be perfectly fine, right? The difference I've seen between tier 2 and, like, tier 3, tier 2 is, like, what everybody's used to before. Tier 3 is, like, it's much wider, right? Flip on a light switch, you'll be fine. The head-mounted cameras absolutely get to tier 3. I love the tier 3 stuff. It also gives us night vision, which I'm finding it's basically like once you understand the maps, once you understand where you're going and you can move around in the dark anyways, the night vision goggles on this are so much better because now I can bring in an extra piece of equipment. I don't have to worry about a flashlight anymore. So this one I think is absolutely invaluable. I would get the tier 3 on this one as soon as possible. For as far as the lighters are concerned, or the igniters, I would get to tier 2. The difference between tier 2 and tier 3, I haven't seen it. I haven't ran out of any kind of lighter fluid out of either one of these in my investigation. The only thing I would say that makes it difficult from tier 1 is you actually have to go through the animation of lighting it, right? But then again, if you're using your smudge, you don't have to light them at all. You just have to have them in your hand. So, like, they're nice to have. If you're used to having them, then I would, you could push to tier 2 and you don't really have to push to tier 3 if you didn't want to. Incense, definitely push to tier 3. Tier 3 will actually stop the ghost. It's definitely a very nice to have. Tier 1, tier 2 works the exact same way. You can still smudge through the ghost. You can still smudge it to keep him away. And all that kind of stuff. Tier 2 will slow down the ghost considerably, and then tier 3 actually stops it for a few seconds. So that's definitely helpful. But nice to have. But it is a kind of a cool thing. You can actually almost keep the ghost indefinitely stuck, which is pretty funny. Motion sensors, nice to have. I mean, they're just nice to have anyways, right? I don't care if it's a 360 degree or if it's just a single line. I'm used to playing with the tier 1 stuff. You put it in front of a doorway and then the ghost walks in front of the doorway or chases after you. It's not hard to get the other ones. I wouldn't waste your money on these. But like I said, tier 3, definitely nice to have. Parabolic mic, tier 3. Tier 1 is made from Radio Shack or like bulk Toys R Us stock. It's absolutely gross. I hate it. It's garbage. Tier 2 is what we're used to dealing with, but tier 3 actually gives you that directional, so that way you can actually pinpoint where it's at. I'm really enjoying taking these on larger maps to figure out the ghost room, because you can pick up a lot of stuff and then you can actually sense where it's at. Yeah, paramics, especially on the large maps, definitely useful. Cameras, nice to haves. Nice to haves. You don't. There's no more than that 5 cameras or 5 photos in one camera anymore, so you can just bring in one camera. It doesn't matter which camera you bring in. The only real difference between these is how fast you can click the photos, That's about it. Tier 3 allows you to click it the fastest. Tier 1 is the slowest, but apart from that, they're nice to have. You don't have to. Salt, kind of the same thing. I would say you could get up to tier 2. Tier 2 would probably be fine. Right? I haven't messed around. You know, it slows down the ghost during the hunts, but it doesn't slow them down that much during the hunts from what I've seen. And in reality, if you're just wanting that salt, tier 2 gives you that line, which is better than just the tier 1 salt. But I'm so used to using the tier 1 salt that for me, there's not really any difference there. Sanity medication. I mean, tier 3 is going to give you the most sanity. Right? That's it. And it does it in 10 seconds, and it gives you a sprint boost for 10 seconds. So I'm actually kind of curious here is if you could basically get into a thing. Maybe we try this out the next time we hit a Moroi, but you get into a Moroi, you get your sanity down lower, right? And then you hit a stem, which gives you that sprint boost for 10 seconds. And it also increases so the Moroi gets slower, you get faster. So the tier 3 does stop the ghost from roaming, but only when it hits it one time. Which, sometimes the ghost doesn't even leave the room. It doesn't want to leave the room. Like, if you got a Goryo, it's not going to want to leave. You know what I mean? I mean, like, I get it if you're, like, for me, you know, for as far as the tier 3 stuff, I take it or leave it, to be honest. Sound sensors, I have not really tried this one all too much at the tier 3. These are nice to haves. You know, if you're playing on, like, the larger maps and you're having a hard time with the parabolic mic for whatever reason, then you could use these. But sound sensors have always kind of just been a secondary thing, in my opinion. There's not a price difference in the tiers. How much the tier 1 cost versus the tier 3 cost is the exact same. The only thing that you're talking about here is actually spending the money to upgrade the stuff. Between the tripods, they're nice to haves. I would say, honestly, you could probably go with tier 2 and you'd be fine. Now, if you do get it knocked down, I've had one ghost knock over a tripod since I've been playing with this update, right? And we're level 90 now. And I've had it knock it over a tripod once, and that was the tier 1 inside a very small bathroom. Apart from that, I haven't had anything else. Both of these will actually rotate as well, you know, so like it's a nice to have, but that's about it, you know. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much everything. Yeah, the rotation controls on the tripods are very useful if you put it in the wrong spot, or like, oh, hey, it moved over into this other area, or I'm wanting to check something out, you know, so it's good to be able to see that in the van. I'm used to using the tier 1 one where you put it down and that's it. That's the view that you get. So I don't know. Maybe it's different for me. But what do you guys think down in the comment section below? I'd love to find out what you guys are thinking about this. And like I said, if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, please do. It definitely helps me out. But yeah, I'm excited to see what more stuff that they come out with here over the next couple of months. But until then, you guys have a wonderful night. You are loved, you are valued, and I'll see you next time. There we go, chat. Let's go.